We are harvesting with T&K Farms, and this is a pretty cool opportunity to be able to be out here and going through corn in a harvester. I have more experience, or the most experience, when it comes to farming with corn because, well, I grew up on a farm that was owned by the Roses, and I got the opportunity to play in the corn bin and climb up all the big piles of corn and all that. But today, Jordan is taking us through T&K Farms and their harvest. And I want to talk a little bit more with you in regards to, first and foremost, how long have you been running this, this field or this harvest season straightforward?
We started harvest about September 20th, which is probably a week or two earlier than normal. And then we started this field last night about 5 o'clock, and we'll be done here shortly.
Wow.
So, didn't take too long.
No, it didn't. I got out here just in time, huh?
That's right.
All right, so with the harvest, part of the season, or part of the thing that we want to do with Farm Tour this year and this season is educating people and letting them learn a little bit more about what it takes to be a farmer, specifically now with corn. You're a harvester. You have been doing this for some time. In fact, you've been driving a harvester for about how long now?
At least 20 years.
Wow.
Before I could drive, I had my driver's license, so it's been a while. I'm getting old, so it's been a while, but yeah, at some point this becomes natural.
Time on the farm is a lot different than time, kids would be, in bigger cities, we'll say.
Yeah, we start early. You got to learn to work sometime. So.
Yeah, there you go. So with the farming lifestyle here, obviously we know we've been running for some time. Give me a little bit of insight. The corn that we're harvesting here today, where does that go? What does that get used for?
So this corn will leave this field. It'll go back to our farm. We have a drying facility there where we will dry it down to a moisture that we can sell it as, and we can store it. So we'll store it until we need to haul it in to sell it. And then most of our corn will get used for ethanol. And then some of it does get sold to exporters where it'll get loaded onto trains, either taken to Texas or the Southeast and used for chicken or cow feed, or some of it will get exported overseas. So it kind of can go all over the place right now.
Wow. All right. One of the interesting things with farming in general, and it's not necessarily specific to just corn farming, but soybeans and everything else, the price fluctuation when it comes to when you take it in and go get it weighed and all that stuff. So do you try to hold out? Tell me a little bit more about, the time frame in which you guys decide, all right, we need to go and harvest.
So as far as the price fluctuation, we will market our grain ahead of us planting it at times. So a lot of the corn that we are harvesting right now is already sold for a price, and we will manage that off our cost of production. So that way we can, I don't want to say guarantee ourselves a profit, but we can manage that a little bit better. Some grain we will store and wait, hopefully, for a better price. Sometimes we get a worse price. That's just kind of the way it goes with the commodity markets. So we do our best as that, as far as that goes, managing our risk, so that we can get a profit the best we can, and control it the best we can.
So this, really is a business, and you have to have that business mentality. Talk to me a little bit more about not just coming in and trying to, make sure you have a profit, but do you find that you need to have a sense of marketing yourself to these places or these organizations that you are selling your products to?
Not necessarily. You want to have a good product. The places we sell to deal with hundreds of farmers, so we're not necessarily unique. Sometimes we do get an opportunity to, if an end user needs a corn hauled at a certain time frame, they'll call us because we have grain, we have the trucks to get it where it needs to go, and we will be paid accordingly if we can kind of get it when they need to. So there are opportunities that we have. We've built relationships with end users. We can make a little bit more money doing that.
Sure.
But a lot of times, if we want to sell grain, we can shop it around, and you just do the best job you can and hope for the best.
With this being a business the way that it is too, what do you find is maybe the most difficult part of the business that me as a consumer or just as, again, the general public, we don't fully understand?
Well, when we buy our inputs, we know what we're paying or what we want to pay, so we can negotiate that. We can kind of work on when we want to sell, control our profit. The biggest challenge, and that's always been with any kind of farming, is Mother Nature.
Oh, yeah.
We can have a perfect plan and we can spend 8 months making a plan, but if it doesn't rain or it rains too much, your plan's out the window. So we can only do so much, and then it's up to Mother Nature. But yeah, it's definitely a business, and we spend a lot of time in front of the computer going over numbers. You can't really wing it anymore. It's a big business anymore, and you got to do your best to control that.
Let's talk a little bit about people that you have working on the farm. I keep correlating back to business, but employment and staffing, obviously, on a farm is a lot different than having somebody go and work at a fast food restaurant or anything like that. So, talk to me a little bit about generalizations about your staff. How many are people that are actual family members? How many are not?
Yeah, so there's 4 of us here full time, all family members, all owners of the business. It's my brother and I. My brother's in the tractor. My dad and then my cousin are driving truck today. So we're all full time, and then we do have a friend or two that'll come on the weekends and help us out with the busy season. But we don't really have any full-time help. It's just family right now, and it's been like that for a long time. So we're fortunate that we don't have to go out and hire people right now in the environment that we're in. So that's one thing we don't have to deal with too much right now.
Now, we're harvesting. The corn is going into the back bin in the tractor, and the tractor pulls the bin up to the semi-trailer, loads it into that, and from there it goes to get weighed. It doesn't go to get weighed, it goes to get dried.
Yep.
And then, is there a time frame that you said that everything's pretty much computerized?
Yep.
Do you know now how long it will roughly take to be able to go and get it all dried out to the temperature that you needed? And
right now, when the grain goes back to the farm, it goes into a bin, and we know what the moisture is going into the bin. And we're drying a couple thousand bushel an hour or whatever we're drying, and then it gets down to the moisture percentage we want it at, and then we'll put it in the bin. The bin might be in the bin for a week, it might be there till next summer. So we keep it in good condition at that point in time, and then our bins have temperature cables in them, so we can control airflow in those bins to make sure the conditions of the grain stays optimal the best we can. That way we deliver a good product to the end user.
Has there been a situation where you've had an equipment breakdown that kind of messed up the plans and put you a little bit behind schedule?
Stuff breaks every day. That's when you deal with machinery, no matter how new it is or your maintenance, things break every day, and you got to go with it. We try to stock some parts on hand so we can mitigate some of the downtime. We have some spare machinery, so we can kind of deal with that, but you just got to stop and fix it. I mean, we had a truck overheat yesterday, and we had to deal with that. And tractors combines can break, the grain system at home can break. It's part of it, and you kind of roll with the punches at that point in time. And you can only control so much, and then you just got to deal with it. It's part of farming, I think, whether it's the weather or machinery or people. You kind of got to go with the flow.
Yeah. Something that people hear, it's kind of a scared, I don't want to say scare tactic, but it kind of is when people hear GMO.
Yep.
As a farmer, that's one of those things that you just you hear it and you just grit your teeth a little bit, like it's misinformation. So can you give us a little insight?
So, I mean, all the corn we raise is GMO corn. It's been bred to handle our environment better. We spray less chemicals on it because of the Roundup Ready trait in the corn. We don't use anywhere near the chemical we used to. Some of our beans are GMO beans. We also raise some beans that are not GMO. They're actually a food grade bean that you get used for tofu and exported to Japan. So we do a little bit of both here on our operation, but my whole life, I think 1995 or 96 is when GMO beans came around. So I don't really know anything different than that. But it makes it, we can grow a more reliable crop safer and keep the food supply and the people that need our product in business. We can just do it better. We're more profitable using it. The amount of chemical that we use in a case where maybe they're not, a non-GMO crop is significantly more at times. So the GMO crop is just safer. It keeps the bugs out. And I know there's a lot of misrepresentation and bad info out there, but I don't know many farmers that would want to go backwards.
Yeah.
And our food supply would go backwards, I think, if we were forced to go away from them also.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, really you can't tell the difference if you have the products side by side.
No, if anybody's had sweet corn that's a non-GMO sweet corn and walked a field of non-GMO sweet corn and then walked a field of sweet corn that's had traits put in it for earworm, you would never go back to eating non-GMO sweet corn, because the quality of the product is far superior in a GMO sweet corn where there's no earworm in the corn. And the benefits. We could talk for an hour about the benefits, and we don't have an hour to talk about benefits to that. So,
all right, we've talked a lot about again the harvest and the GMOs and all of those kinds of things. Obviously, your main focus here, corn, soybeans. Have you considered, from a business standpoint, going into another crop and then decided, you know what, that's not a great idea for us?
We used to grow wheat on our farm until about 4 or 5 years ago, and we've gotten away from that just because of the inconsistency of the profitability of it sometimes. We've gone down the food grade soybean rabbit hole a couple of years ago, and it's worked out well for us, so it helps us diversify a little bit. But for the most part, we've spent a lot of money on equipment and infrastructure to grow corn and beans, and that's what we're good at, and that's what our ground is good at doing. We don't have the soil type to grow, maybe some kind of produce or anything like that. So, like most things in agriculture, it's becoming more specialized, and we kind of stick to what we know and what we're good at, and that's what it'll go until something else comes up down the road, maybe.
You brought up a really good point too about soil quality too, because a lot of people have maybe a mentality of, okay, they're farmers, they can grow anything. Why don't they just grow the thing that makes them the most money? Because
Yeah, so most of the ground that we farm is heavier soils, where we fight wet soil conditions more than we'll ever fight dry conditions. So a lot of the specialty products out there, like watermelons or any kind of produce like that you see grown in a field, does not like having wet feet. And corn and beans will handle the wet feet a little bit better, but as you can tell in this field, even this corn didn't handle the wet feet too well at times this year. And so we kind of just got to stick to what we know. And I'd love to grow some of those items because they are profitable, but they got their baggage also. But we don't have the soil type to do that, so corn and beans it is.
There you go. The crop isn't always greener on the other side, right?
No, that's everything's got their issues like everything else. And like I said, we've gotten good at one thing, and that's what we're gonna keep doing, I guess, until someone tells us differently, I guess.
Let's talk technology.
Yes.
Technology obviously has changed so much in how the farming industry operates. I mean, much like we talked about when Brian and I were in the tractor and harvesting, you've got a great GPS system here.
Yep.
That paints a path, lets you know where you go. Obviously, corn, you can see where you've been and where you haven't been.
Yep.
What's another piece of technology that you find crucial that is maybe newer to the industry that we don't know as consumers?
So I mean, obviously, everything we do in the field is mapped sub-inch. When we plant or spray or spread fertilizer or harvest, we have a map so we can overlay all those layers and we can see what worked and what didn't work. One thing we do, and a lot of people in ag do, is when we soil sample our farms to find out what fertilizer to put on, we do it in zones, usually based on soil type or management areas, and that's all done through GPS. And then each zone gets a different amount of fertilizer spread on it, or a different type of fertilizer. And that way, we're not putting more on than we have to, because it's not good for the soil and it's not good for your pocketbook. So I mean, everything we do is down. We don't just go out and do something anymore. Everything is done, by recommendations by people smarter than me. And we do it that way, and then everything is tracked back. So if a landowner wants to know what we did on their farm, and we can hand them a map and say, here you go, and we know how many tons of fertilizer we spread on it, or when we sprayed it, when we harvested it, the dates, what the yield was, where the good spots and the bad spots are, and where we can make improvements to improve a farm. So everything is done and tracked so that we can, the goal is just to get better at what we do and more efficient. So we're not spreading more fertilizer than we have to, but we're still growing a good crop, which is profitable.
There you go. Awesome. Well, with that, is there anything else? So we've covered a lot of ground, both literally and figuratively today in
That's
our
right.
conversation. Is there anything that you really want us to know that we haven't covered?
I think people see us on the road a lot this time of year, and all year long there's always equipment on the road. And I think just be patient with us, please. We don't want to be out there in your way. We don't want to slow you down. I'm not getting anything done when we're on the road. So as equipment's gotten bigger, it just it's becoming harder and harder to get around some of our areas that we operate in. But that's just kind of what we got to do. And I think that people see us out here in the field all the time. And we got to remember the people at home taking care of our homes and our kids. We couldn't do what we do out here day in and day out, 7 days a week. We didn't have, wives or girlfriends or husbands or whatever at home taking care of our kids. So they're definitely the unsung heroes of harvest or farming in general, because I couldn't do what I do without my wife doing what she does. So you may not see them in the tractor, but they're just as important as what we do out here.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yep.
Well, Jordan, we appreciate you obviously giving
Yep.
us the opportunity to be out here.
Anytime.
And oh, look at that! Looks like we're almost
Yeah,
done.
almost,
I don't know if I
did you bring lunch?
have
It's about
any-
lunchtime,
It is
so
almost
yeah.
pretty close. All right, again, farm tour on the farm, literally doing the work right now. I'm not. You guys
Yeah,
are.
it's not really hard work. I'm not going to take any credit for it. So
Thank you to Pater True Value Hardware in Scottsdale, our presenting sponsor of Farm Tour this year.